So guys, I have been left confused with this new report from Duan, who claims that the 16-inch Apple Silicon MacBook Pro could come with the M1. What? An entry-level chip in Apple's most expensive laptop? It makes no sense to me. I am just left confused, as I said, and not only that, but he also claims the redesign we've been waiting for won't actually be a redesign. What is going on? Well, let's try and piece this together, and so without further ado, make sure to like and subscribe, click that bell notification for the latest Apple news and rumors, and with that being said, let's just tuck in. So the source, Duan, is a pretty interesting source because he's not really a source in the first place. He basically reposts other sources and their tidbits on Chinese sites like Weibo. Now, of course, you might be wondering, why am I covering him then? Well, he's a messenger to a source within China called Kang, who, if you aren't familiar with, is the most accurate Apple leaker on the internet right now, with an accuracy rating of 98%. That's insane. 98% is literally, like, it's just mad. And so this could very well be a leak from Kang. He doesn't mention the source of this information, and so we're really not sure. But if this is a leak from Kang, then yeah, this could be very credible information. But I can't lie, this doesn't really have a Kang feel to it, because it does feel pretty dodgy and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and so let me explain why. You see, if the 16-inch had the M1 chip as an option, it would just ruin things, because I feel like with Apple, they have a hierarchy of basically offering you better and better performance with every tier of the MacBook. For example, we have the baseline, the Air with the M1 and no fan. We have the M1 MacBook Pro, which has slightly better performance due to the fan. And then, of course, we'll have the M1X machines, the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro. And I'm pretty sure the 16-inch, due to its bigger size, will have some GPU advantages, possibly even Apple's first dedicated graphics on that machine. And so, if we had the M1 across the lineup, then why would you buy the 16-inch MacBook Pro? Because yes, it has a bigger size, bigger speakers, better mics, more storage and RAM, I understand that. But of course, prosumers and professionals buy the bigger 16-inch model for the additional performance, and so if that no longer was there, then most would just settle for the Air and the smaller Pro, and that surely will have a huge dent in Apple's Mac revenue, because of course they make more money on the more expensive Macs with the higher margins. Not only that, but the M1 only has support for 2 USB-C ports, and imagine the uproar within the community if Apple released a 16-inch MacBook Pro with 2 ports. That would piss everyone off, and so I'm pretty sure that will never happen, and if it does, it will be a terrible idea that Apple will have a lot of backlash for. Of course, I can play devil's advocate and suggest that maybe there is a chance we see some sort of lower end version of the 16-inch MacBook Pro with M1, and of course the more higher end options that are replacing the current model will come with M1X. I guess that could be possible because Apple might have a surplus of M1 chips, but ultimately I do think that might start confusing consumers. Now, I do want to say there is one thing to note about this leak, and that is I'm assuming it was translated from Chinese, and of course I'm assuming they used Google Translate, which isn't known to be reliable, and so something could have been lost in translation. And so part of me does think that what is actually being said in this report is that a 16-inch MacBook Pro with a variant of the M1, which of course makes sense because the M1X will be largely based on the M1, is coming very soon, and that makes a lot more sense to me. I think that's what's trying to be conveyed in this leak. But anyways, enough of the M1 chit chat. There is another thing to note with this leak, and that is they mention that there will be a lack of a redesign with these new MacBook Pros. So yes, this is absolutely heartbreaking news, because to those who love the flat edge design of the iPhone 12 and of course the iPad Pro, was looking forward to seeing it on the new MacBooks. But it seems that might not be the case, because according to this source from China, they claim it's going to look the same as the current MacBooks, which by the way have looked the same since 2016, and instead will come with thinner bezels. Now of course I would love to say this is completely wrong, but this does corroborate with Mark Gurman, because he actually does claim the design refreshes with the next MacBook Pro will be minor, and slightly thinner bezels are definitely pretty minor changes. Now Min-Chi Kuo is the only hope we have left, because he claims that yes, a flat-edged redesign is coming with these new MacBooks, and since he has connections with the supply chain, I am inclined to believe there is a good chance this information could be true. Not only that, but also Apple does redesign the body of the MacBook Pro every 5 years or so, and since we haven't had a redesign since 2016, it's definitely time for a huge overhaul. Although I do know that some claim the 16-inch MacBook Pro is technically a redesign because it came with slightly thinner bezels, and so if that is the case for some weird reason, then yeah, the redesign might be pushed back for future iterations of the Apple Silicon MacBook. Though to be honest, I really have no issue with the current designs, since I have a mid-2012 MacBook Pro, and so the current designs are still a huge step up for me, and really the only issue I have with today's design are the chunky bezels, and so I'm glad to hear Apple is fixing that with these new MacBooks. And I guess it does make sense, because of course we're getting a huge display upgrade in the form of Mini LED, which essentially is an OP version of LCD and brings some of the elements of OLED we love, like the higher brightness, the better contrast ratios, and deeper blacks over to an LCD panel. And the more I think about this, the more it kind of makes sense, because I am pretty sure that Mini LED will increase costs for Apple, and so reusing a chassis that they already have the tooling and of course the mold for will keep costs down for Apple, and that in return could be good news for us, because there might not be a price hike. But tell me in the comments below, will you settle for a design that's largely the same as the current models with slightly thinner bezels, or would you want a complete overhaul with a flat edge design? Anyways, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click that bell notification for the latest Apple news and rumors. Check out a video here in the icon above about the 2021 MacBook Pros also getting a bigger battery and more ports. And on that note, I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya, peeps.